Carla knew something was off the moment the VP walked into the break room wearing a $25,000 Birkin bag like it was a damn name badge. The same VP who'd just told an overworked team of analysts they couldn't approve $200 in overtime because budget optics didn't support it. That morning, Carla had skipped breakfast, bled her lunch break into someone else's budget meeting, and was halfway through reconciling yet another broken GL when Alana leaned over her cubicle wall like a botox gargoyle and cooed, "Overtime isn't paid, sweetheart. Welcome to corporate." It wasn't just the words. It was the way she said it, like corporate exploitation was a perk, like being robbed of your time was a networking opportunity. That moment cracked something inside Carla, not loudly, not all at once, but like a hairline fracture in glass, quiet, precise, inevitable. And before we go any deeper, real quick, if you're one of the 97% listening to these stories without subscribing, hit that button. It's free, it fuels the people who make this chaos come to life, and it's the only kind of compliance we actually care about. Plus, Carla says thanks. Well, not out loud, she's mid-spreadsheet breakdown, but she'd mean it. Back to it. Thing about Compliance Week at a Fortune 500 is it's a theater production. They slap ethics posters on every flat surface, give you a cookie if you complete the e-learning module, and call it transparency, while the C-suite siphons enough retention bonuses to fund a mid-sized coup. Carla had seen this play before. She'd been with the company 12 years, longer than 3 CFOs, 5 accounting systems, and 100 half-baked cost-cutting initiatives. She was the kind of person who knew which version of the annual report got quietly re-uploaded 2 days after release, because she was the one who fixed the math after someone in marketing made a branding-friendly edit to Q3's liabilities. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. She was efficient, invisible, and just tired enough to stop giving a damn. That night, after Alana's little welcome to hell monologue, Carla stayed 2 more hours fixing a reconciliation report that some golden boy manager had butchered. He'd labeled vendor payouts under internal events and miscategorized 5 figures of payroll into miscellaneous, standard stuff. Carla cleaned it up, saved the corrected file, and copied it into the shared folder with a silent prayer to whatever tech god was babysitting the servers that week. She didn't expect thanks. She did expect basic human decency. Instead, next morning, someone from HR sent out a condescending all-hands email titled "Compliance Begins with You." It featured Alana's face, laminated in Photoshop glow, with a quote about accountability culture. Carla stared at the screen, sipped her cold coffee, and imagined drop-kicking her monitor into the nearest recycling bin. At 10:42 a.m., while walking past the main conference room, she heard laughter, Anna's voice carrying through the frosted glass like a soap opera villain on speakerphone. "And I told her if she wants overtime, she can clock it in her dreams." Laughter. Someone else chimed in, "How's that retention bonus working out?" Alana's voice again, "Honey, they call it discretionary for a reason." The door shut. Carla stood in the hallway a few seconds longer, pretending to scroll through her inbox. Inside, a fuse lit. She didn't punch walls. She didn't cry in the bathroom. She went back to her desk, opened her folder of archived compensation reports, and started clicking. Because when you've been the invisible glue holding things together for a decade, you know exactly where the bodies are buried. And sometimes, you're the one who dug the hole. The breakroom microwave was humming like a dying wasp when Carla stepped in to heat her soup, some sad blend of lentils and resentment. Alana's voice floated over the hum, crisp and smug, like a podcast nobody asked to hear. "They're calling it a discretionary retention package, but it's basically hazard pay for putting up with the board's incompetence," Alana said, sipping from a double-walled tumbler that probably cost more than Carla's car insurance. "Totally off the books, though. Legal's cool with it as long as we don't call it compensation. It's a consulting retainer." She laughed. "I consult my own damn nerves, honey." Carla didn't flinch. She'd mastered the dead-eyed neutral stare years ago, the kind that said, "I'm here, but my soul clocked out at lunch." She stirred her soup and pretended to read the expired gluten-free brownies label on the fridge. In reality, her mind was already spinning like a loaded revolver. 10 minutes later, back at her desk, the company Slack pinged with a terse announcement. "Effective immediately, Kyle M. is no longer with the company. We wish him the best in his future endeavors." Kyle, fresh out of college analyst with a caffeine addiction and a heart of gold, had been let go for what Carla knew was a technical hiccup on his time card, a 6-minute discrepancy logged during a system outage. That boy once stayed until midnight trying to fix a broken expense report macro. Carla helped him debug it between mouthfuls of vending machine trail mix. And now he was gone because the clock was 6 minutes wrong, and HR needed a sacrifice for the quarterly compliance metrics. Meanwhile, Alana's retention money, blessed by the same ethics committee, flowed under the radar like a sewage leak wrapped in legalese. Carla clicked open a folder titled Old GL Backups and stared at the contents. Spreadsheets dating back 6 years. Expense reports labeled by region and fiscal year. Reconciliations that had long since been cleaned for executive presentation. Most people forgot about these folders. But Carla knew better. She knew the scent of rot when it baked into the drywall. She copied 3 folders to a personal drive, quietly. No fanfare, no drag-and-drop drama, just years of financial footnotes slipping into her encrypted vault like ghosts into a bottle. And she remembered. She remembered 2019, when a VP faked a consulting invoice to hide a department Christmas party in Cabo. She remembered 2021, when finance had to reclassify a 6-figure bonus as office renovation because the actual office was a Tesla. She remembered being told, "You're a team player, Carla," every time she patched a spreadsheet that someone higher up screwed into chaos and forgot to save. Her hands didn't shake. Her breathing didn't change. She just began. That night, while the rest of the building powered down and janitors rolled their wheezing carts past flickering exit signs, Carla stayed late, not out of obligation but instinct. She opened a shell company file she'd buried during the last reorg and began cross-referencing payout trails. Funny thing about CFO transitions, things get lost. Oversights multiply. Old accounts get renamed. Vendor codes shift. But Carla never lost the scent. As she worked, her screen reflected back a woman she barely recognized. Focused, quiet, eyes like a storm you didn't hear until the trees started snapping. She wasn't rage posting. She wasn't screaming into voids, she was collecting. By the time the janitor flicked the lights and said, "You good, Miss Carla?" she had 2 thumb drives filled with enough paperless sin to make a compliance officer retire early. She nodded, all good, just cleaning up, and she was, just not the way they thought. Carla sat at the kitchen table, staring into a bowl of cereal that had turned to paste. Her laptop glowed in the half-light, the spreadsheet cells pulsing like dying fireflies. Tabs were open to old finance policies, archived reimbursement PDFs, and a blank notepad file where she'd started listing suspicious vendor payouts with all the enthusiasm of mortician counting toes. From the hallway, her wife called, "You okay?" Carla didn't answer immediately. She was rereading a December disbursement labeled Q4 Vendor Adjustment Conf. Line item 032B. But the bank info listed wasn't tied to any vendor she remembered. It belonged to someone named Haley St. James. She hovered, clicked, cross-referenced. Haley was Alana's assistant. 24, no degree, ran the VP's calendar, and once forgot to schedule Carla for a budget reconciliation review that she was the only qualified person to attend. And there it was, Alana's e-signature, clear as day, authorizing a $15,000 vendor payment 3 days before Haley's tropical Instagram bonanza. The caption on one photo, "Earning it 1 pina colada a time, nail polish hash grind," the rage didn't explode. It settled, like bad weather locking into place. Her wife wandered in, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Babe, this is getting unhealthy. You're up till 2 a.m. digging through old crap. Just quit. Figure it out, you're better than this place." Carla looked up and for a second something in her cracked. Not with sadness, something sharper. Older like flint. "I'm not done yet." Her voice didn't rise. It landed like a file drawer being slammed shut. Her wife raised both eyebrows but didn't push. She just muttered something about taking a walk and left Carla alone with her tax code ghosts. Carla considered HR. She really did. She even drafted a message. "I've come across discrepancies I believe warrant investigation," but stopped mid-sentence. The last time she flagged something, years ago, during a systems migration, HR thanked her for her concern, looped in the manager she reported, and then promptly uninvited her from all recurring meetings for the next fiscal quarter. Her access to certain budget folders expired. Her name got left off a project promotion doc. That same week, Lana started calling her cautious Carla in all hands with a grin that made Carla want to staple her own face. No, HR was a trap. A velvet-lined one, sure, but still a trap. The system protected its architects, not its janitors. She opened a new secure folder on her external drive, Ragnarök. Inside, she started building a timeline, a crosswalk between payroll disbursements and public earnings calls. She flagged ghost vendors, entities that billed services no one remembered receiving. She screenshot discrepancies between internal reporting and what had been published in quarterly investor updates. She opened her password manager and double-checked every credential for the audit archive system. She still had read-only access, enough to see what was overlooked during past compliance sweeps. In another window, she drafted a schema for documenting her findings using audit trail principles. She even downloaded metadata timestamp tools so no one could claim her records were faked or misinterpreted. She was a one-woman audit war room, and still, somehow, it felt like she was just getting started. This wasn't about revenge, not yet. This was about accuracy. Because for the first time in years, Carla wasn't just fixing other people's messes. She was measuring them. Carla waited until Saturday morning, when the world was half asleep, and HR was still nursing bottom-shelf wine headaches from their Friday happy hour, to make the call. She hadn't spoken to Delia Martinez in years, not since they both sat for the CPA exam in a grim Marriott conference room, lit like a hostage video. Back then, Delia had a laugh like a riot and a photographic memory for fraud cases. Now, according to LinkedIn, she was senior editorial at the Red Ledger, finance watchdog blog with enough bite to make hedge funds flinch. Carla didn't text first, she just dialed. Her hands were steady. Delia picked up on the second ring. Carla Han, Jesus, are you calling to finally admit you cheated on that estate tax simulation? Not yet, Carla said. I've got something better. There was a pause, then the rustle of sheets. This better be pre-coffee worthy. I've got expense reports showing misclassified executive bonuses. I'm coded as vendor payouts. Retention payments hidden in consulting budgets. And the cherry on top, some of it bumps against their last earnings disclosure. Silence. Then you said public company? Carla smiled into her chipped mug. Nasdaq listed. Fortune 500. And the VP in question is about to be the new face of their ethics campaign. Delia made a sound halfway between a laugh and a bark. Okay, first, this is liquid gold. If you can tie any of it to reported earnings, that's SEC interest. At minimum, headline worthy. But you need to be strategic. Send it to me encrypted. Give me breadcrumbs, not the whole loaf, and don't get caught. Carla had already encrypted everything. She just nodded, timing's everything. Delia added, and Carla, this story breaks wrong, they'll throw you under a bus made of NDAs and confidentiality clauses. Then I better make sure it breaks right. They agreed on a secure drop protocol. Delia would do a soft pull first to verify sources, check traceability, and confirm nothing had been tampered with. Carla would control the pacing. She'd hold the master files. No tip-off, no leaks, just precision. By Sunday afternoon, Carla had updated her evidence map, created 2 separate encrypted drives, one for Delia, one for state regulators, and set calendar reminders for soft drops. She used code names only: Cypress folder, vendor 42, Raven key. Every document had internal timestamps and screen-recorded footage of her accessing files legally with her credentials. She didn't sleep that night. She didn't need to, because Monday arrived like a middle finger wrapped in ribbon. The company newsletter hit inboxes at 9:04 a.m. Subject line: Leading with integrity, our compliance week champion. Front and center was Alana. Professional headshot, white blazer. Quote in bold, ethics isn't just policy, it's who we are. Carla stared at it like it was an abstract painting made of vomit. It wasn't rage, it was absurdity, theater of the grotesque, like putting Dracula in charge of a blood drive. She clicked archive, then walked calmly to the kitchen to refill her coffee. No one noticed her eyes, no one noticed the shift, but something had crossed over inside her. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was orchestrating, and the symphony hadn't even started. The first sign came Tuesday morning. Carla clicked into the shared finance directory to double-check a Q1 rollover report she'd accessed a dozen times before, only to be greeted with a gray box that said, permission denied. Please contact system admin. She blinked, clicked again, same message. No warning, no reorg memo, just revoked. 2 hours later, she went to pull a comp report for the 2018 vendor consolidation project, gone. Not moved, not renamed. Gone, like someone was vacuuming behind her footsteps. She didn't panic, she got quieter. Carla had always played the part of the overqualified workhorse, unassuming, punctual, the kind of person who baked banana bread during busy season and labeled her folders. Nobody ever thought she was watching them back, and now that she was, they were scrambling too late. By noon, she had migrated the encrypted evidence files to 3 different locations: a cloud account under an alias, an offline USB vault locked in her home safe, and a printout of key transaction records stashed in an old CPA binder labeled estate planning and zombies. She also enabled version history tracking on everything. If anyone tried to scrub, overwrite, or resave her breadcrumbs, she'd see it. Hell, she'd timestamp the erasure itself. After lunch, as she was microwaving another sad bowl of soup, the new intern, Trent, probably still nursing his first hangover from the compliance mixer, nudged up next to her and said with the casual obliviousness of the young and doomed, "You know, Haley billed the company $200 last week to take a black car to Pillets." Carla raised an eyebrow. Business development? Trent shrugged. She labeled it security transportation, because apparently the sidewalk was hostile. He laughed. Carla didn't. She just sipped her soup and murmured, guess ethics has a carpool tier. That night, she added the car service invoice to a new folder she titled Compliance Chauffeurs. It included screenshots of ride receipts, meal reimbursements billed as vendor meetings, and spa trips categorized under client recovery. She added metadata overlays for each, building a lattice of routine abuses too detailed to ignore. The kicker came Wednesday. A company-wide email from the internal audit department, subject line, upcoming internal controls refresh initiative. The body was vague, boilerplate language about process alignment and reinvigorating best practices. But to Carla, it was a fire alarm wrapped in HR glitter. Somebody knew, or suspected, or was at least trying to find out who was rustling the bushes. She didn't flinch. Instead, she booked a PTO day on Friday, blocked off her calendar with a fake dentist appointment, and emailed herself the latest compiled archive under the subject line, tooth extraction follow-up. Let them watch. Let them sweat. She smiled at her desk, watching as the office buzzed around her, clueless. Alana strutted by in a blazer that probably cost more than Carla's mortgage payment, chirping into her phone about Q3 optics and board confidence. Carla wasn't looking at Alana anymore. She was watching everyone else. the way managers started locking file cabinets, the sudden IT tickets requesting folder access audits, the new policy updates in Slack that didn't quite make sense. She could feel it. The building was humming like a pressure cooker, and Carla was the only one who knew when the lid would blow. It landed in her inbox at 7:41 a.m. Subject line, FW, draft internal statement for review confidential, no intro. No context. Just a forward chain meant for someone else, probably the other Carla in strategy who got hired last fall and still hadn't figured out how to merge PDFs without crashing Outlook. A blessing in disguise. Carla opened it, read it once. Then again, slower. It was a draft press release, clearly being workshopped by legal and PR, dated 5 days out. Preemptive statement. We take compliance seriously and are aware of misleading claims circulating about our executive compensation practices. We assure stakeholders that all compensation is legally vetted and performance-based in accordance with industry standards. No names, no specifics, but the language was slick, defensive, full of that corporate febres stink, sprayed over rot, not to clean but to camouflage. The kind of statement that meant they knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to start damage control. Carla stared at the screen, her hands resting quietly on the keyboard as her heartbeat slowed, not sped. It was the calm before surgery, cold clarity. No more testing the water, no more internal weighing. They weren't going to investigate, they were going to pre-spin. They weren't hunting the truth, they were arming against it. That afternoon, Carla took her final compilation folder, one labeled Orpheus Final, and did two things. First, she sent it to Delia via encrypted transfer. Full files, annotated PDFs, metadata screenshots, timeline spreadsheets with link sources, video recordings of data access logs, a 7-page briefing doc she'd written at 2 a.m. while sipping chamomile and running 4 VPN chains like a war criminal. Delia replied with a single message, holy shit. I'll start prepping the drop. You're covered. Second, Carla initiated the secure upload to the Ohio State Comptroller's office through their whistleblower portal. She used a dummy email account, routed through a disposable server in Reykjavik, and uploaded the folder with a timestamp summary note. Material evidence of executive compensation abuse, misreporting, and falsified vendor classification. Tied to public earnings disclosures. Recommend audit and SEC notification. Relevant timeline, Q4 2018, Q1 2023. She didn't hit send yet. She scheduled it for 6:45 a.m. Friday, right before the stock market opened. She knew Alana's compliance keynote would be filmed at 9 o'clock. She knew PR would hold their breath until then. Timing wasn't just everything, it was the weapon. By 10 p.m., Carla had backed up the master file to an encrypted SSD hidden in her car's spare tire well. She printed 2 hard copies of the critical ledgers and sealed them in a manila envelope marked Grandma's recipes, slid it between cookbooks on the top pantry shelf. Just in case. She returned to her laptop, checked her checklist one final time, metadata verified, folder permissions scrubbed, VPNs closed, access logs cleared. Then she shut the lid. For the first time in weeks, she slept. Not peacefully, but with purpose. The conference room had been transformed into something out of a corporate fever dream. A slick LED wall glowed behind the podium, flashing buzzwords like transparency, integrity, accountability in alternating fonts that screamed budget PowerPoint. Rows of foldable chairs lined the polished floor, the front row already claimed by HR, legal, and a few smug board-adjacent VP types who looked like they'd never told the truth without rehearsing it first. Alana stood center stage beneath a ring light, her white blazer pristine, posture photoshopped in real time by sheer ego. A production intern hovered near the camera rig, adjusting the mic levels. This wasn't a keynote, it was theater. Compliance Week's grand finale. A PR stunt so polished it practically squeaked. Carla sat in the back row, arms folded, eyes fixed. She hadn't planned to attend in person, but something about witnessing the performance made the moment cleaner, more surgical. Alana opened with a joke about how ethics isn't always sexy, which earned polite, dead-eyed laughter. Carla felt nothing, not even disgust. Just that cold clarity again, like standing inside the eye of a hurricane and listening to it breathe. Midway through Alana's canned story about growing up with strong Midwest values, Carla's phone buzzed quietly in her lap. Delia, drop scheduled. Site goes live 6:50. Front page, buckle up. No emoji, no fanfare, just a trigger pulled. Carla flicked over to her calendar app and opened the event labeled Dentist Tooth Extraction. Inside was the hidden timer tied to her scheduled email drop, the anonymous tips, encrypted attachments, an explainer doc queued to hit the state comptroller, the SEC intake address, and 2 external compliance watchdogs. Scheduled send, 6:45 a.m. the next day. Confirmed, locked, she tucked the phone away. On stage, Alana paced like a dollar store Breen Brown. Compliance, she said, isn't about fear, it's about trust. It's about knowing your leadership has your back, that we're all accountable, no matter the title. Carla didn't blink. Behind her eyes, she could already see the front page headline. Exclusive, internal whistleblower exposes fraudulent executive payouts at Fortune 500 firm. She could feel the ripples forming, the ones that would take hours to crest, then crash through inboxes, Slack threads, stock tickers. A few rows up, someone's phone lit up. Probably another scheduling conflict. Probably someone wondering what time the catered lunch would arrive. Carla smiled to herself barely. She wasn't angry anymore. She was ready. Not for revenge, for resolution. For the truth to finally echo louder than the spin. By 6:51 a.m., the homepage of the Red Ledger had melted the finance side of the internet. Exclusive, Fortune 500 execs named in compensation cover-up, anonymous whistleblower drops receipts the story pulled no punches. Falsified vendor records. Off-the-books retention bonuses routed through shell codes. Car services billed as compliance escorts. Haley's Pilates Uber? Front and center, tagged with the receipt and a screen grab of her Instagram post. Get in loser, we're avoiding oversight sparkles. Carla lay on her couch, wrapped in a thrift store blanket, sipping black coffee like it was communion. The apartment was silent except for the occasional ding of her phone, a wall of texts, pings, missed calls piling up in real time. She didn't read them. Not yet. The story hit LinkedIn by 7:12 a.m. Alana's headshot was suddenly everywhere, but not under the company banner. Now it floated beside headlines like corporate hypocrisy on full display and VP of ethics accused of financial fraud. Hashtag, hash accountability week by 7:40 a.m. Internal Slack screenshots were leaking to Twitter. Someone from sales posted a photo of the office lobby screen, which still flashed Alana's pre-scheduled compliance keynote on loop. Caption, you can't script this better, or worse. Carla's phone buzzed again. HR calling, she let it ring out. They tried again and again. 4 times before 9 a.m., she turned the ringer off. At 9:03 a.m., an all-staff email blasted out under the subject line, a message from leadership. She didn't open it, but from the flurry of Slack pings and the flood of messages in the alumni group chat, she got the gist. Alana was on temporary leave pending investigation. The board had called an emergency meeting. The CFO had no comment at this time, and someone in IT had locked down access to historical payroll folders with the digital equivalent of a padlock made of panic. Carla reached for her laptop, opened her resume, and scrolled to the top. Deleted the old header. Typed in something new, no longer available for exploitation. She saved it. Closed the file. Outside her window, the streetlights blinked off as the sun finished rising. The company had woken up to hellfire. Carla, she had nowhere to be. For the first time in over a decade, she didn't check her inbox. She checked the weather, made a second cup of coffee, and pressed play on an old Nina Simone record. Let them burn. She'd already walked out of the building before the match was ever struck. The company bled for 8 straight days. The emergency board meeting was held behind frosted glass and closed captions. Words like material misstatement, fiduciary exposure, and SEC cooperation slipped out through leaks and bitter LinkedIn updates. By Thursday, whispers turned to headlines. Earnings may face restatement following whistleblower claims, and Alana's voluntary leave became official, buried in a one-paragraph footnote during the earnings call, right after someone asked about compliance initiatives moving forward. The VP's Birkin bag? It disappeared from her shoulder and her socials in the same 24-hour stretch. Meanwhile, Carla's inbox turned from graveyard to garden. 3 offers. Cold, direct, no recruiters. One from a fintech she once beat out in a government contract bid. We've followed your work. Another from a boutique audit firm that used to send her quarterly invites she ignored. And the third, senior compliance lead role at a competitor who once ghosted her after a second-round interview. All with 6-figure bases. All with signing bonuses that made her snort coffee through her nose. She didn't reply. Not yet. She didn't need to rush. Her phone buzzed with a text from Trent, the intern who'd ratted out the Pilates car ride. Trent, you really timed that like a symphony. They're still trying to find half the folders you nuked. Carla grinned. Carla, I don't nuke, I archive with emphasis. She powered down her laptop, slow and deliberate, closed the lid like sealing a chapter. No more crisis dashboards. No more reconciling someone else's corruption at 2 a.m. under flickering fluorescent lights. She grabbed her keys, slung her bag over her shoulder, and slid the appointment card from her wallet. Deep tissue massage, 90 minutes. Paid for in advance. No spreadsheet required. As she stepped into the sun, phone on silent, inbox cooling behind her, she felt it, not vengeance, not even satisfaction. Just freedom. The kind you earn the long way, one spreadsheet at a time. The kind they never saw coming. Appreciate you sticking around, you legends of the break room. Subscribe for more chaos. Let's make your old managers spill their coffee in fear.